Good morning and welcome to Monday with the Mayor. I'm your host, Mayor Jody Carney. Today with me, I have one of our village staff members, Mr. Colin Powers. Welcome, Colin.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Coming to Monday with the Mayor. And Colin, can you give us your job title and a little bit of your background for the audience that are joining us this morning?
Yeah, so my name is Colin Powers. I am the new zoning specialist with the Village of Plain City. As you can probably tell, relatively young. I just graduated from the Ohio State University in May of this year with a Bachelor of Science in City and Regional Planning. So I got hired on back in the middle of May, and so I've been with the village now for a little over 3 months.
It feels like you've been here with us a lot longer,
Yeah.
but I know the summer flew by, so we appreciate everything that you have done over the last 3 months here. Can you walk me through what does a zoning specialist do on a daily basis and provide that for our guests?
Yeah, so some of my main job responsibilities right now, I'm in charge of kind of enforcing the village's zoning code. So with that comes a lot of, property landscaping, sign code, different types of development standards for our different zoning districts. Um, so yeah, another one of my responsibilities, as I'm starting to, settle into my position here, I'm getting more and more different responsibilities. So I'm looking over zoning permits now, fence permits, different applications and permits that the village requires for any sort of development that's coming into the village. Um, Zoning permits is definitely one of the more common types of applications that we receive at the village. A lot of zoning permits relate to our new housing developments that are coming in, like Darby Station and eventually Run Off-Hour Preserve, these kinds of different housing developments that are coming into the village soon.
Let's talk about what is a zoning code, and some that might really help to explain more of the ins and outs of your role.
Yeah, so really a zoning code is, I like to think of it as a living, breathing document. It's part of the village's set of codified ordinances, and it has its own section within the code. The zoning code is kind of a document that can be updated, amended, changed at any point in time, but it really is the development standards kind of outlining what can and can't happen in certain areas of the village or on a piece of property in the village. So obviously it's broken up into different districts, like your residential districts, commercial areas, industry, even though Plain City doesn't really have heavy industry as people would think, but uh, different districts like that. And then within the code, there are certain sections for each zoning district that Plain City has. So we have regulations that are more applicable to the entire village. So that's where some of my job responsibilities come in, dealing with enforcing the sign code in the village, enforcing landscape and property maintenance and things like that.
Talking about property maintenance, what are some of your the most violations that you have to deal with kind of on a weekly basis? I mean, you may see Colin out driving in the Plain City Jeep that going around and everything. What are you really looking for or find that are some repeat offenses?
Yeah. So typically, as I've only been here for 3 months now during the summer months, but when we're in more of the drier season of the year, we do see a lot more grass violations. So people having tall weeds and grass on their property. We really like to get out ahead of the game a lot of the time, and the violation letters that we send, they really aren't meant to threaten or like make anyone feel like, oh no, I'm not doing something right, but they are a means for people to correct issues that we are seeing at their property. So grass violations are really the main one that I focus on in the summer months. Also, trash in the right of way, or trash or certain debris on your property. If we can tell that trash is kind of coming from your property and blowing out onto the roadway, that's something we will send a letter for. Also, something else that we like to keep an eye on are signs in the right of way. So I know that coming up there is, election season for council and different things. And we also see a lot of the time throughout villages contractor signs, different yard signs that people have. We don't mind if people put those on their property or in their yard, but we just really want to make sure that those signs aren't in the tree lawn, which is, the area between the sidewalk and the roadway. So as long as nothing's in that tree lawn, you're allowed to have those kind of signs on your property too.
And that's really helpful. So then that way, what happens if they continue? Like, do you just go through and then like remove the signs at
Yeah,
some
I
point?
think at some point I'm going to start going out and removing signs where I see, or I'll just pick them up and set them back on the yard. But that's just something we want to educate the village about.
That's a big that is really helpful, especially coming into election season and knowing like where you can and cannot
Mm.
place your sign because nobody wants their signs taken, but then also you want to make sure that you pay attention to that as well. Going back to the grass violations, and I know that's like our zoning is in place so that way it gives everybody the same set of standards to apply from property to property and to make sure that that we all do our part to make our village look nice and clean. What is the in the zoning code, we have a certain height that grass can be before you get a letter. What is that?
Yeah, so typically it is, no more than 8 inches tall. We do encourage people to keep their grass regularly mowed. But yeah, 8 inches is the height limit there. And anything over that is when we start to violate or issue violation letters.
That's really helpful to know. I think it was um, in my tenure on council, I think it was a lot higher, but then it just seemed that it was getting out of hand. So we did make change our zoning code to um, shorten the amount before the village could go out there because I think it was like it could be really tall and there was a lot of turn there wasn't much time to be able to give someone
To fix the
to
issue.
fix the
Yeah.
issue and
Yeah.
everything. So that's really helpful. Um, with like permits, I know I get a lot of questions on like fences and different structures on properties. What would that process look like and where should they go to look up information?
Yeah, so all of our permits, we keep track of them through an online website called OpenGov. So that's kind of what we use in-house to, just keep track of and approve and administer permits. Um, Citizens can go online to our website and go to the Planning and Zoning tab. You can click on a tab that takes you to online applications, or we do have PDF copies available of all of our different permits that you can print off and then return to the village. Some of our more common permits, like I had mentioned, or zoning permits, those are kind of our catch-all permit. Yes, they are mainly for new residences and making sure that a home, a primary structure, is meeting its setbacks and all of those, lot size requirements and things like that. But also in a zoning permit, there are other things. If people are wanting to do additions to their homes, if they want to put a deck on the back of their home, um, or any sort of like accessory structure, like a shed or some type of storage unit on their property, they can file a zoning permit and we review that in-house. Also, fence permits, things of that nature. Um, you can find those applications online too.
That's great. And we can provide that link as well for our viewers to help give a little bit easier access to knowing where to find that information. If a neighborhood has an HOA, how should they treat their zoning question? Should they consult their HOA first before the village or go to the village or the
Yeah, so we really encourage people to, chat with their HOA first, make sure that whatever proposed project you're planning, whether that's a fence or any type of addition, porch, whatever, we really want them to chat with their HOA, make sure that they're meeting the zoning text for that. Like if it's for a housing development that's coming in, they sometimes have their own standards or codes that they want people to follow. But then also you will need an official permit from the village in order to complete that project.
and how long does that usually take to obtain that permit?
Once somebody turns in their application and everything looks good, we review it. It's usually about a week or two turnaround time, just depending on how busy staff is in the office.
So err on the side of making sure that that you have plenty of time to complete your project. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers?
Um, Yeah, so I just want to say that I'm excited to be here in the village, very happy to be a part of the team. As Central Ohio is looking to grow and is projected to grow within the coming decades, Plain City is in a really good spot right now to kind of absorb some of that growth, but also keep its small town charm and really,
I like the small town charm because I think that's one of our questions that we get a lot from our residents is how do we keep our identity as Plain City grows? Thanks for joining us for another Monday with the Mayor. As always, in between, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Or if you have any questions about zoning, feel free to reach out to Colin and he'll get right back to you. Thanks, and until next time, have a great day.